she was sitting there just.
Donna.
It's the church.
The church book, okay.
But she
Yeah.
had
sorry,
got it from the church and then she
Okay,
found it and she gave this to me, so
very good.
I think we'll do that one and also, one you guys were talking about?
One that, you mentioned that, the little town Bethlehem to the English too.
There's two
It
melodies
says-
for it.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It was just there.
So that's an
At least it's not an anthem.
Do you want me to check with my phone?
anthem.
The national anthem. He's not listening to me. Oh, he's tuning me out.
Yes, there it is. on
Okay,
YouTube.
perfect. All right.
He's caught up in this.
We're on YouTube.
We are live. If you see this happening here, down here, that means we're live. So, just so you kind of know, if this says 00 and the blue light isn't lit up, then you know we're not live. But if you see that blue dot and those numbers, then you know we're live. Just so you can control the content.
In a shocking turn of events.
I said, well, we'll practice it.
I'll learn it and then you'll be able to get, like I said, it's not a national anthem, so.
Yeah,
We're
right.
gonna sing it at the ladies' supper. And we'll do all three verses and,
Okay.
of both songs.
Good.
And then,
Yeah.
she thought we should have each other's practice.
Well, it probably would be
She was talking about, and then they used to have choirs all the time, and she said, we were there for choir practice faithful every Thursday night.
Yep. good. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, she's talking about your mom and dad,
Well, yeah.
trios, Texas.
She loves.
All right.
Hello.
And
Birthday shares. Yeah, I talked to him.
Dylan.
Good evening, everyone, near and far. If you are far, hopefully you've gone on to the Facebook page and downloaded the PDF, which will give you the study notes for tonight. If you are near, then you don't have to worry about that because they are right here. Near and here. Donna, if you want to, or Shelley, or whomever. Ugh. If you're near, you can. There is coffee available. If you are far, there hopefully is coffee, tea, or whatever is in your house or your wherever you are. Excuse us if you hear coughing in the background because Leader has been besieged, there's a good word, by a round of respiratory infections, including myself. So nothing serious, but everybody's barking a little bit. So hopefully you've got your warm beverage and you are set. I know we do here. We've just got 3 people getting coffee, so we will wait for them.
Won't name names.
We won't name names or voices, but
Big booming voice.
Ethan,
Dylan Wall.
Dylan, or Joni, could you bring me a little bowl to put my tea bag in?
Here, you can just make that.
Oh, I've got Donna's cup. No, it's all good.
Not yet. We haven't reached that point.
Sharing a teacup?
No, putting your teeth in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like the couple eating the sandwich, right? And,
Yeah.
yeah, wait, taking turns with the tea. And thank you all, near and far, for joining us. I know it's, hopefully we can keep everybody awake tonight. We're at the age where some of us don't sleep at night, so around 8 o'clock, there's a lot of, there's a certain sleepy component in the room, including yours truly. That's better. Oh. That'll work. Sorry. Okay, we are. Oh, now we gotta wait for the other guy.
Because of the cookies.
Because the cookies.
Like
He went,
herding cats.
it is. He went for
Or
cookies.
chickens. Or kids.
Or husband.
Oh, there he is. We got one more. So there's a spot right here for him.
One here, Harlan. Just for you, Harlan.
And there's coffee and cookies available as well, Harlan.
Hey, bring your own.
Yes. All right, we're going to do two kind of streams tonight. First is the notes that you have in front of you, and like I say, hopefully you have the notes that you've been able to access as well. And then I want to jump over to PowerPoint and do a big story. We're going to look at one of the pieces of the story tonight, and then we're going to look at the big story, how it all fits together in the book of Zechariah. So we are at Zechariah chapter 4. So if you've got your Bibles, I trust, as we're at Bible study. My what? At where? All right. So we left Zechariah with a vision of the branch and the eye with the rock with 7 eyes. You remember that? And it ends with that central verse, which is George Washington's favorite verse. And that verse says, what's the great promise?
Each one under their own olive branch and their own fig tree and
Figs and olives, yeah.
Figs and
Oh, wine.
wine. Figs and wine. Yeah, the great promise of
there was some both
You're
vines.
supposed to feed your company pigs.
figs and wine. We focused on that great joyous theme. So we have cookies and coffee, which I think are the North American equivalents of figs and wine. So the fruit of the bean and the fruit of the cookie.
Sugar cane.
Fruit of the sugar cane, the fruit of the kitchen. So, all right, chapter 4, verse 1. Ethan, take it away.
And the angel who talked with me came again and woke me, like a man who is awakened out of his sleep.
So Zechariah's kind of stunned by all this, and he's dazed. And the angel says, "Come on, snap out of it, pay attention." All right, you're doing great, Ethan. You want to read verse 2?
And he said to me, "What do you see?" I said, "I see, and behold, a lampstand all of gold, with a bowl on the top of it, and 7 lamps on it, with 7 lips on each of the lamps that are on the top of it. And there are 2 olive trees by it, one on the right of the bowl, and the other on its left."
All right. What did this is like, what do you see? What did Zechariah see?
This?
That, right, yeah. If you've got your notes, that's there. But in your mind's eye, what do you see?
A golden stick with a candle on it.
A golden stick with a candle on it. Good. Anything else? What do you see in your mind's eye?
Olive trees.
2 olive trees? All right. He sees this. So let's just take a look at this little chart, and hopefully you got that. If not, I will hold that for you. There we go. Is
There
good?
was
Yeah.
7 channels to the lights.
Yes, so what he sees is 2 olive trees with branches, and then 2 little receptacles where the olive oil drips out into that, which goes into this bowl, golden bowl, which has tubes that go into the candlestick, and then the candles are lit.
It almost looks like maple syrup part of
It does, kind of a maple syrup affair. But this is a menorah, the candelabra, and it's being fueled, burning oil, and the oil is coming down out of a central receptacle through little. It's quite a mechanism. We could probably have, had I put a request in earlier, we've got some people with some skills here who could have built us one, and just not the golden bowl. And
Hard to get the olive trees.
yeah, tough to. Yeah, we could have. We got some crafty people. We could have made.
Could have got oil.
Yeah.
I'm gonna crochet you up then.
Yeah, we could have faked a couple of these plastic plants as olive trees, but so that's what he sees. All right, without knowing anything, without going any further, what did he see?
A symbol.
A symbol. Who said a symbol? Good, he saw a symbol. Without any explanation, if you were Zechariah, you'd go, that's what that is.
Power source.
A power source. Good. To keep the lights on. Good. What else did he see?
Aren't olive trees like prosperity or wealth?
Yes, symbol of fullness, richness, prosperity, wealth. Yeah. So this isn't scarcity, it's abundance, right? What else does he see?
It's kind of connected to the light.
Yeah, there's a light connecting to this. Good. What's the problem with oil-based lamps? They run out. What's this situation?
It's continuous.
Eternal.
It's eternal. This lamp never goes out. Okay, so what does he see?
Jesus.
What's that?
God,
Good. God.
Love.
Good. Love.
Eternity.
Eternity. Peace. Good. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, holiness, self-control, faithfulness. I know, I don't know
Just sing
why.
the song.
All right. What he sees is a symbol of two people. Two people who are going to be the source of light in the nation. Did you get that? What's that, Dan? Yes, well, sort of. If you're going to run a country, what are the two main branches of government you need?
Finance.
You need finance? Good. Yeah.
Law.
What's that, law? Good. See. Good. What else do you need to run a country well, or to help a country flourish?
money,
What's that, Bonnie?
money.
You need money? Yeah. You need wealth? What else do you need?
Leadership.
Leadership?
Looking for something.
I am. Think about the Americans, the separation of
State and the church.
church and state. Good. So you need somebody on behalf of the state, finance, government, law, and then you also need the spiritual side, right? You need the physical side of us. You need the moral side, the underpinnings of a culture, and you need the mechanical side of a culture, right? So two men would come along and would symbolize one the spiritual side of the culture and one the material side of the culture, the church and the state. So we know that within Jewish tradition you can be king or you can be priest. You can be a prophet king and you can be a prophet priest, but you can't be a priest king. So you can be prophetically a king and you can be a prophetic priest, but you can't be both in one. The two, I know you're thinking, I want to be king, I want to be pope, I want to be king of the popes. Sorry, that's SCTV. Those of you who grew up on SCTV, John can. I want to be king, I want to be pope, I want to be king of the popes. You can't do that. So you see these two people. Zerubbabel, who would come along and be the governor of the province, and Joshua, the high priest. Joshua, the high priest, representing the church, and Zerubbabel representing the state. Now, Joshua is another name for Jesus. Very good. Aha. Good. So these two men would lead this wave of Jewish returnees from exile, and they would rebuild the temple and rebuild the city. So that's kind of what we're about to see. All right, flip the page there. Here's the vision. Verse 2, he sees a lampstand with a bowl on top with 7 lamps and 7 wicks on each clay bowl. So how many wicks does he actually see? 49, exactly. He sees that Ethan read for us, a bowl on the top with 7 lamps on it with 7 spouts. So my picture is poor and inaccurate. There should be 7 lamps on top of each lamp.
I didn't want to say anything.
You didn't want to be critical.
And this was the same lampstand as the temple, the menorah. And the lampstand in the temple represents the presence of God. That's why the lamps don't go out. They're always continually fueled. And that's why at Hanukkah, what was the miracle of Hanukkah? Never went out. Right. 8 nights of oil from only 1 night. So presence of God symbolized by the burning lamp. And the 2 olive tree, this is 2, and we see something new. These are the 2 sons of oil. The office of priest and king were inaugurated by oil. So we see Zerubbabel and Joshua ministering and flourishing and doing ultimately what? If the lamp represents God's light, what are they doing?
Providing the light.
They're providing the light, right? They are the source by which God is flowing into the society. Good. All right, so verses 4 and 5, Zechariah's little conversation with the angel Joni, or are you in mid-cookie?
Move my Bible because I didn't bring my glasses. 4 and 5?
Please.
What are these, my lord? He answered, Do you not know what these are? No, my lord, I replied.
Let's just stop there.
You ever heard of a dumb question?
Yeah. So at the beginning I said to you, what do you see? And you all kind of went, well, that's exactly what Zechariah did. Like, what do you see? What is this? I don't know
What am I
what.
looking
Yeah. And the angel says, well, don't you know? And Zechariah says, no, I don't know. So if you ever wonder if it's okay to ask God foolish questions, feel free. You know, God says, okay, what do you see? And you go, I don't know. What do you see? God says, well, come on, you tell me. So that's exactly what and I said, do you not know? I said, no, I don't have a clue. It's a great little moment. I said, no. And he said to me, all right, verse 6. Dylan, verse 6 and 7.
So he said to me, This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord Almighty. What are you, O mighty mountain? Before Zerubbabel you will become level ground. Then he will bring out the capstone to shouts of God bless it, God bless it.
All right. That verse may be familiar. He says, power. Right. So, what are Zerubbabel and Joshua? They are might and power. Right? So which one represents which one?
Well, power would be Joshua.
Yeah, the spiritual side is power. Yeah. And might would be so not by the state, not by the church, not by the institutions, not by the institutions that we have crafted, the temple and the palace being the two representatives, but by the Spirit. The light could not come through the oil. The light came through the fire. Right?
Dylan, you didn't get that.
Sorry, I was
Fire. A bit cookie, yeah. So the idea is that somehow we think that the oil is providing the light. Well, it's actually the fire provides the light. See the metaphor lands a bit? Does that make sense to you? All right. So, not by might, which would be their own, or power, the authority of it, but by spirit, providence, authority, power, the energy of God would make the temple. And then he foreshadows the opposition yet to come. We're going to look at when the temple was built, the people in the area, there was just repeated levels and layers of opposition. And he says, what are you, O great mountain? And, Zerubbabel is the one who tears down the great mountain. So you don't have to worry, Zerubbabel, things are going to be great. And he will bring forth the top stone which shouts, grace, grace to it. All right, verses 8 and 9, Danny.
And the word of the Lord came to me, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundations of his temple. His hands will also complete it. Then you will know that the Lord Almighty has sent me to you.
All right. Oftentimes prophecy doesn't include a date, but this one does. When will the temple be finished?
Before Zerubbabel dies.
Before Zerubbabel, within his lifetime. So they knew that within the span of this man's life, the temple would be rebuilt. So there's a fixed date on this. That's why it's a very clear prophecy. He will come, God will build it at his hand, and it will occur before his death. So they have that reassurance. And then one of the great lines, verse 10, Danny.
Who despises the day of small things? Men will rejoice when they see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. These 7 are the eyes of the Lord which range throughout the earth.
If we were on a game show, there would be a bell right now. Ding, 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 ding. We won, because now we know, right? So who's the man with the plumb line? Zerubbabel. He's the guy with the plumb line. And who is the rock with 7 eyes? Right. So the Lord, through Zerubbabel, will rebuild the temple. Sometimes prophecy explains itself. All right. Yeah, Dad, yours added 7, eh? And these are the...
7 are the eyes of the
Yeah.
Lord. 7.
Does your translation say 7, Donna?
Nope.
No, neither
It
does
says
mine.
These are the eyes of the Lord.
Which translation do you have, Dan?
NIV.
NIV adds 7. A nice explanatory note.
NIV adds 7.
For these 7 lamps represent the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah. So it adds the number to explain it. All right, here's the problem. In light of all of Babylon and all these wonders, how grand do you think Zerubbabel felt? Not much. He was just a governor. He feels like a small thing, right? And these were small days. And God says, don't despise the day of small things. because great things are going to happen. Even though he would feel the smallness of his work. Joyce, you want to look up Ezra 3:12 and Doug Haggai 2:3 and Bonnie Nehemiah 4:2. So, give me a moment. Ezra 3:12, Haggai 2:3, which might be fun to find, and Nehemiah 4:2. And while you do that, it's tea time. Just so I don't lose another eye.
What was it, Ezra?
3:12, and then Haggai 2:3 and Nehemiah 4:2.
AGI what?
2:3. 2:3. Joyce, you got?
Finding the book was the hard part.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part. Ezra 3:12.
But many of the older priests and Levites and family heads who had seen the former temple wept aloud when they saw the foundation of this temple being laid, while many others shouted for joy.
So those who had been old enough had seen the grandeur of the first temple, and now they see this little temple, and they're discouraged. And God says, don't despise the day of small things. This feels small to you, but don't despise it. Doug?
Who of you is left who saw this house in its former glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem to you like nothing?
Yeah, they despise the small. This thing just seems like nothing by comparison. Bonnie?
And in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?"
So what are the small things? The temple and the people, right? The people were small, feeble Jews who tried to rebuild this. The temple fell. They just felt like everything was small. And God says, don't despise the day of small things, because the small things lead to great things. Zerubbabel is a man who's discouraged. And this prophecy, what's the purpose of prophecy? Comfort and encouragement, right? Comfort and hope. So Zerubbabel is discouraged, and he's going to be discouraged about what he's about to encounter. It's going to overwhelm him, and he's going to want to quit. And this prophecy comes and says, Zerubbabel, don't be discouraged. There's going to be opposition. It's going to be stagnant. Things aren't going to work. And he says, look, I want to show you something wonderful that you're going to do, Zerubbabel. The candlestand, the bowls, the 49 wicks, God's presence in the darkness. And let's take a look then at these two issues. Where are we at here? All right, verse 11. Harlan, you want to read verse 11? Zechariah. We're back in our original book.
Zechariah, what?
Chapter 4, verse 11.
Thank you. Then I asked him about the two olive trees on each side of the lampstand.
One on the, yeah, it says, so what are these olive trees? I get the lamp. Okay, you want to read verse 12 again, Harlan? And verse 12.
And the two olive branches that empty the oil into the golden bowls through two golden tubes.
Shelley, do you want to read 13?
He replied, "Do you not know what these are?" "No, my lord," I said.
He's probably kind of just sitting there.
This chapter is full of those like, don't you know what they are? No, I really don't.
That's kind of the way I'm feeling. I'm thinking about this and,
Yeah.
really?
I could get some help here,
Like,
please?
how do you
Yeah.
get that from?
Yeah, exactly. How do you get the trees being the guys? All right, let's keep reading. Shelley, you want to read verse 14?
So he said, "These are the two who are anointed to serve the Lord of all the earth."
All right, these are the two anointed. These are Zerubbabel and Josiah. Okay. All right, I'm just trying to jump ahead here. All right, I want to pick this up. Okay, so that's the prophecy. So, what did Zechariah see?
Two anointed kings.
Trees,
Lampstands.
lamp. The lamp represents the light of God, the glory of God shining. And because it was a temple vessel, it foreshadows the temple, right? And it's not working. And how is it going to come about? But
From the two olive trees.
right, the irrigation, the oil irrigating, the two olive trees. And the two olive trees are
Josiah and Zerubbabel.
Joshua and Zerubbabel. So, who is going to rebuild the temple? And Joshua. So what's this prophecy all about? Rebuild the temple. Pretty straightforward, right? There's no temple, things aren't going well. God says, I'm going to build a temple, it's going to glow like 49 lamps. It's not going to just be 7, it's going to be 49, it's going to be glowing, and the light of God will shine in the darkness. And Zechariah says, I don't understand how. And God says, through Zerubbabel and Joshua, they will rebuild the temple within their lifetime. It's a very simple prophecy. So what's the application?
Keep it simple.
What's that, Bonnie?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. I like that.
Don't overthink it.
Okay.
So why couldn't he have just saw that?
I don't.
So that he could figure it out himself, what he's,
Yeah. Why not just have a vision of these two men building the temple?
that he could understand himself.
Yeah, because he couldn't. It took the angel to interpret it for him. Anybody? I don't have an answer to that question, Joey.
Look at
'cause-
the dreams Ethan's having.
well, that's right about Doug. Yeah. You need to stay for coffee later if you want to understand that's what's going on there.
We're going to need an interpreter.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's this sequence of dreams, and perhaps the weight of it is symbolic, that these men are trees, something you can rely on, speaks to their character, speaks to the unending supply of God working through them. All right. I want to put all these visions of Zechariah in context, because it is frustrating. Like, why? What's going on? Why is going on? So I'm going to do something new here. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint slide, which all of you here will see there, and Donna's going to confirm that all of you there will see here.
Damn, that was a big well done.
Here, there, here. No. Yeah, it'll make sense. Look at that. Magic. All right, now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over there. Now, Donna, on the phone, in a moment, because it takes about a minute or 30, 40 seconds to catch up. What do you see on the phone?
I still just see the main page.
It'll just give it time. It's got to go up into the universe, get re-scrambled, and then resent.
It's quite foggy, so it will be a while.
Yeah.
So,
It's like a wash. Exactly.
How's it looking? It's still just the screen?
It says live, but it's just the screen.
Something's wrong here. Because that should have been streaming the whole time. May I see your phone? Oh, yeah, see, no, we're good.
Or it just happened. It just jumped on.
You didn't push play.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Try to plug in.
It's there, it's all good.
There we go. I see my hands waving. Yep, it's working. Perfect. Oh, sorry, dear. All right, Zechariah sees 8 night visions. We're about halfway through the visions. So, he sees the man among the myrtle trees in Zechariah 1, 7 through 17, which is God's anger against the nations. Then we see the 4 horsemen and the 4 craftsmen. Remember that? Making sense? We see the, I'm just going to pull this a little closer so I can read it. We see the man with the plumb bob, the measuring line, and we see the cleansing and crowning of Joshua the high priest. So that's the first 4 visions, and we've looked at those already. Then we see the golden lampstand and the 2 olive trees, which we looked at. So we're at vision number 5 right now. And in the weeks to come, we're going to see the rest of the visions. But I want to, because we're in the middle, I want you to see what's about to come and how it all fits together. So then we're going to see the flying scroll, then the woman in the basket, and the 4 chariots. So don't worry about them yet. Is it warm in here?
It is.
Yeah, it is really warm in here. But
Good.
It's just right.
it's just good for you, Bonnie. No.
I think that's good.
One of our guests here tonight has a flannel shirt, a t-shirt, and a fleece vest on.
And I'm just right.
And she's finally just wool socks, and quilted pants. That, she's finally warm. Well, I think the furnace just kicked in. That's why it's starting to warm up in here. Yeah, I'm starting to get warm too. I just thought it was my animated nature was getting warm, but it is getting.
You're moving a lot.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to look at 6, 7, and 8 in the weeks to come, but I want you to see how they all fit together. So this is chiastic. All right. Anybody remember what chiastic means?
This connects to that.
That's right. An X.
Apples.
All right. So this is a classic example of a chiastic sentence. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, all the hosts of them. So which two words are connecting? Heavens and hosts, right? By the breath of his mouth. So if by the word of the Lord is line A, by the heavens were made are line B, or idea B, then all the hosts of them is idea B, and by the breath of his mouth is idea A.
What's a haiku?
It's sort of like a haiku. Yeah, it's a poetry. A haiku's about syllables, but that's chiastic structure.
That's a poem, though.
It's a Japanese one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So chiasms were a way of expressing ideas poetically, but in English we rhyme. There was a man named Doug, and he looked like a pug. I just started to rhyme. Anything. So we rhyme things, or we use iambic pentameter or meter. Jewish poetry doesn't rhyme. It uses chiasms. Is that clear to everybody? Make sense, Donna?
Not really, but that's
So what it is it's the structure of ideas. Idea A and idea A, idea B, and sometimes it's AA, BB, sometimes it's ABB, BB, but it's always these four ideas interconnecting with one another. And basically it's a way of expanding. So in other words, the word of the Lord, another way of saying that is the breath of his mouth. Right? Make sense? One way of saying were the heavens made, the host of them. So they're connected. Does it make sense, Joni, Ethan? We're connecting? All right. I want to show you just a really big chiasm. The New Testament is also written in chiastic structure at times. This is the granddaddy of New Testament chiasm. This is Matthew 21 all the way to 25:46. And this is a chiastic poem, but you don't see it because you don't read the poem. But in the Old Testament, it is, what we have is, on the one corner of the audience, only the disciples. The other one is the audience of religious leaders, crowds of disciples. And then we go back to the disciples only, back to the crowds. And we have this cross set of structures. So we get Christ returns to Jerusalem in his kingdom, and then an arrival at Jerusalem later on in 21. I'm not going to go through those all, but the false Christs and prophets in 24:32, and then we see this, the law's greatest teacher. Days short to the end, the woe, the ending of the kingdom, the woe to mothers, if you look at line G, the Antichrist revealed, the proselyte twice a son of hell, parallels the Antichrist, and on and on and on. So Jesus spoke in chiastic structures, but we don't see it because that's not how we speak or think.
He was a poet, and we didn't even know it.
That is right. He was a poet. That's why he taught in ways that people go, how he's teaching it. Today he might rap, you know.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
If Myrtle was here.
If Myrtle, yeah, she would be good.
Probably watching.
She is. Well, Myrtle, he would rap. Or sing country music, whatever. But this was a common way of building and developing ideas. All right. So what we get in the vision is, guess how these 8 visions work? They're chiastic. Each one interprets the other one, and each one layers on the other one. So really, it's only 4 visions, but repeated. So what we get is the horseman among the myrtle trees, verse 11. Donna, you want to read that?
So they answered the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees, and said, We have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet.
So they've run about the earth, and then in verse 8, what says? The 4 chariots. Now, first we had 4 horses, now we have 4 chariots. And verse 8?
Then he cried out to me and spoke to me, saying, See, those who are going to the land of the north have appeased my wrath in the land of the north.
So we get the 4 horsemen, right? So now we have a specific image of a horseman. The 1 chariot going north this time. Before there was 4 of them going east, west, north, and south. Now in chapter 8 we have the 1 of them, but we switch images. So from the word of the Lord to the mouth of the Lord, from the horses to the chariots. The horses and the chariots are the same thing. Just a different chiastic picture. All right, let's do another example. Ethan, you want to read?
Can I just quick ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it the same event?
Yes.
Okay.
Ethan, you want to read 21?
Where?
Chapter 1.
It's up there.
And I said, what are these coming to do? He said, these are the horns that scattered Judah, so that no one raised his head. And these have come to terrify them, to cast down the horns of the nations who lifted up their horns against the land of Judah to scatter it.
Good. So this is the defeat. We talked about these four nations. The defeat of evil. In the opposite end, in verses 10 to 11, Joni, can you read it here?
I said to the angel who was speaking with me, where are they taking?
Don't worry about it. It's an ephah. We'll get to that later.
Then he said to me, to build a temple for her in the land of Shinar.
Yeah.
And when it is prepared, she will be set there on her own pedestal.
So this evil that was present will be removed. She'll be picked up and she'll be moved. They're building a place for her over there. So we see the four horns of the craftsman removing evil from the land. Later on we see the woman in the basket removing evil from the land. The pictures are different, but the images are the same. Well, not the images. The images are different, but the meaning is the same. Make sense? And that's why prophecy can be confusing. Going, well, why don't we just repeat it? Because this is poetry. But it's image-based poetry, not idea or rhyming words. So when he speaks of the evil being overturned in one image, later on he speaks of evil being overturned. This is really we're going to get into this woman and the guys, the ladies with the wings and the basket. But the basic point is the same. There's a woman who's a real basket case. Yes. Okay, and then so that was vision. Now we're into vision 3 and 6. God's blessing on Jerusalem. Dylan.
Sing for joy and be glad, O daughter of Zion. For behold, I am coming, and I will dwell in your midst, declares the Lord.
So that's vision 3. All will see the face of God. Later on in vision 6.
Then I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, there was a flying scroll.
Not a squirrel. Squirrel.
And he said to me, what do you see? And I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits, and it's with 10 cubits.
I love Zechariah because he never knows, as what I see. What do you see? I see a squirrel flying around. And he really doesn't know what they mean until the angel of the Lord explains to him. What do you see? I don't know. Olive trees. What does it mean? I don't know. You tell me. And that's Zechariah. He's such an honest prophet. But so all will see the face of God, shout for joy. All will see the law of God, the flying scroll, shout for joy. Do you see the structures are paralleling? Make sense? I don't want to get you lost. That's why I did it on PowerPoint. Okay, and then visions 4 and 5. Danny.
The vision of Joshua the high priest. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the Lord, before the angel of the Lord.
Which we just saw.
Also the word of the Lord came to me, saying, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands will finish it.
What are the two pillars that he's going to rebuild Jerusalem on? Church and state. Zerubbabel and Joshua. So in the vision 4, which are the ones that are closest to each other? He sees the two that are closest to each other. Zerubbabel and Joshua. These are the two lampstands of the two olive trees, the vision of the Joshua. So you see how it's starting to structure itself? And I'm hoping
I can't hardly wrap my head around the fact that somebody actually figured this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
It'll come clear when I get more pictures. All right.
I guarantee you a mechanic is going to figure this out.
It's not linear. It's this.
It's not even this.
No, it's not this.
Because we think.
It's chiastic. And part of the journey that we've had as we've gone through these books is helping us think differently. We think differently about time. We think differently about structure. We think different. And this is, you just got to start thinking different. Yeah. So here's the chiastic structure. The horsemen among the myrtle trees and the 4 chariots,
Crisscross.
same thing, crisscrossed. The 4 horns and the 4 craftsmen, woman in the basket, crisscrossed. The surveyor and the flying scroll, crisscrossed. And the golden lampstand and the 2 olive trees and the vision of Joshua the high priest, crisscrossed. So what we end up getting is this. We get this one and this one, this one and this one, this one and this one, and this one and this one. And what do we end up with?
A lot of lines.
A beautiful parallel structure. Here's the problem. In English, we would do the top two together, and then the second two, then the third two, then the fourth two. So we would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He does 1, 8, 2, 6, 3, 5, no, 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. Make sense? Does it help? Do you see it? And in the middle of it all is 3, 8, and 10. All right. Now we're up to for reading. Joyce.
Chapter 3.
Yes, please.
Listen, O high priest, Joshua and your associates seated before you, who are men symbolic of things to come. I am going to bring my servant, the branch. See the stone I have set in front of Joshua. There are 7 eyes on that one stone, and I will engrave an inscription on it, says the Lord Almighty, and I will remove the sin of this land in a single day.
Who's in the center? The branch and the
eyeball rock.
and the eyeball rock. Right. And last week we learned that they are
Jesus.
and God, the Spirit, right? The church is built on the words of Jesus and the work of the Spirit. At the center of all these visions, and that's why it's chiastic, because it builds each one like a triangular support. These two support, these two support, these two support, and this crisscross support structure supports Jesus and the Spirit in the middle. So it's almost like a stronger, make sense? Sort of. It's a stronger support in the middle. Because all of them are like lines, arrows pointing. Because if they were this, they wouldn't point to anything. They would just be parallel structure, right? But because they're this,
Good foundation.
yeah, they point to a structure in the middle.
Right.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Why it's done that way? So rather than building, we would build it's idea, and like the hub at the center of a hub, like you think of spokes,
Yeah.
all crisscrossing, and at the center of the message is the work of Jesus and the Spirit. And so the chiastic actually functions to center our vision, all these visions. Okay, now excuse me, it's getting warm here.
Yep.
Not just you. Center on, and the answer is Jesus. Good.
It's not fire.
Not fire. This time it's all Jesus. Indeed, these men are a symbol, for behold, I'm going to bring my servant, the branch. Everything points to Jesus.
So who's talking there?
The angel of the Lord.
My servant.
Of God, like the Father.
Okay.
My servant, the branch. So at the center of all these visions, supporting the central, are the vision of the stone and the branch. My servant, the branch, verse 8, the stone with 7 eyes, which we've already looked at, right? We saw this last week, the stone with 7 eyes, which it also might be a stone with 7 facets, like a diamond with 7 cuts. So it might not be a stone with 7 eyes. It might be a stone with 7. But this is a more fun, literal image of the idea. When in doubt, go for the fun option. So what we see at the center of all of Zechariah's prophecies is that the temple would be restored and the nation would be restored based on Jesus the branch. This is from Isaiah. Where are we up to? Doug.
Then a shoot will spring from the stem of Jesse, and the branch from his roots will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and strength, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord.
I'll just get you to stop there. The Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him. Number 1, the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of understanding, the Spirit of counsel, the Spirit of strength, the Spirit of knowledge, and the fear of the Lord. How many spirits?
7.
7 spirits of the Lord, right? Christ has resting on him the 7 spirits. He possesses the stone with 7 eyes, or he's carrying it, so to speak. Sorry, keep going, Doug.
And he will delight in the fear of the Lord, and he will not judge by what his eyes see, nor make a decision by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he will judge the poor, and decide with fairness for the afflicted of the earth. And he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Also righteousness will be the belt around his loins, and faithfulness the belt about his waist.
All right, now my learned ones. Where's the chiasticus inside here?
Right there.
Right there. Yeah. Okay, look at the last verse. Righteousness will be a belt around his loins, and faithfulness a belt around his waist. They're saying the same thing, but they're saying it poetically. We see that he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth and with the breath of his lip. Mouth and lips are parallel, right? He will slay the wicked. It's just a way of saying the same thing over and over again poetically. And it lands. The image is a little stronger.
It's all in pairs.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's all in pairs.
It's all in pairs. Yep. A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, B, A. Sometimes a C, but very rarely. Mostly at A, B. He is the stone with 7 eyes, but these 7 will be glad when they see the plumb line. The Spirit will be thrilled when he sees Zechariah rebuild the temple, when he sees Zerubbabel rebuild the temple. For these are the eyes of the Lord which range to and fro throughout the earth.
But
So-
those are the watchmen or the guys on the horses. They're
That's the
ones-
angels.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are they the eyes?
No, they're the angels, because they have 8
But they
eyes.
go to and fro.
But, well, yeah, that's true. But they got 8 eyes.
Not eyes.
There's a lot of conflicting information.
There's a lot of repeated information, duplicated information.
Oh.
So the Spirit of God roams about the earth, but also the angels are his rangers. So they travel.
Ghost riders.
Yeah, go. The angel riders in the sky. Like any of the rangers, though, God has these rangers who travel throughout the earth inspecting things for him. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there's something. Anyhow, it's a song. And he's connected to the branch, as Doug read for us. The Spirit of the Lord, Spirit of wisdom. We see these 7. And it all ties to Revelation, chapter 5, verse 6. I saw them between the throne and the 4 living creatures, 4 horsemen. So what's surrounding God? 4 horsemen. He's got this group around him. And the elders of the Lamb standing as if slain with 7 horns. That's his authority. And he has, so there's a lamb now with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. Because Christ possesses the Spirit of God.
Why so caught in taking abstract all the time? Like I just
Abstract, that
it's
is
just-
a good word.
Because if Jesus only had 2 eyes,
I get it.
he needs 7 to be complete. Because the Spirit is...
PowerPoint. He could have done PowerPoint.
Well, he didn't have PowerPoint, so what he had was 2
He could
trees.
have had PowerPoint.
He had 2 trees and a lamp with 7 bowls, and he saw the lamp. It was an early version of PowerPoint. So why did he use images? Because he didn't have PowerPoint.
Just tell me.
And Zechariah says, what is that white box projecting light up against the tree? Well, it's a projector.
What do you see?
What do you see?
I don't know.
It says Banquet on it. Yeah, well, it's a projector.
It says Microsoft.
That's right. Just trust me. Roll with this.
Okay, but and then how does it tie? Because we talked about this a little bit the other day. The 4 horns on the corners of the
Altar.
Of the altar.
Right, God's authority. All 4 directions.
On the ark, there was 4 horns.
On the altar in the Holy of Holies,
Right.
on the Indiana Jones altar, there's 4 horns. And they represent the 4 realms of north, east, southwest, the 4 corners of the earth, and God's authority over the 4 corners of the earth. But they also had a practical application. You could tie something and you could hook the rope on if you had a wiggly lamb. Or you could tie it down with that. There's like connections. But it's symbolic of authority. Horns are always authority.
And that's with the bull. You get the authority.
That's right, yeah. Hence, a bull market goes up, right? Because the bull throws up. And how does a bear hit? Down. So a bear market goes down. So in the stock market, if it's a bear market, it's lowering. If it's a bull market, it's going up. So that's where the symbols come from, bears and bulls. And the 7 eyes are the 7 churches. John said, churches that are in Asia, Greece, and from the 7 spirits who are before the throne. So we see the 7 spirits of the 7 churches. So the church also is the 7 spirits, the 7 churches of the 7 spirits. Not to confuse you anymore. We'll get through this. We're almost done. So the branch is Jesus. Good. A solid answer you can rest upon with certainty. The branch is Jesus. And the stone is the Spirit. The temple would be built not by works, not by might or power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Jesus says, by my Spirit I will build the church. Right? The temple. So, the 8 visions are beautiful because they're the gospel. If we look at the 8 visions, we can see the message of Christ, all right? So,
Of course.
promises, of course it's God, yes, Jesus. The answer is Jesus, good. So, visions 1 and 8 are the promise of coming peace. Visions 2 and 7 is the defeat of evil, down and removed. Visions 3 and 6 are that we will see God and His Word will ever be before us. And visions 4 and 5 are we will be priests and we will build a temple. And what's at the center of the gospel? Jesus, right. That's why this chiastic structure works, because framing it at the first and last are promises. We start with a promise and we end with a promise. The promise of peace, the gospel begins with a promise of peace and ends with peace. Good. This is straightforward. Good. Starts with peace, ends with peace. And then we move. Well, how is peace achieved?
Get rid of evil.
Getting rid of evil. If you get rid of evil, then you have... So see how it's working? Promise of peace. How do I have peace? Get rid of evil. If I get rid of evil, I have peace. You see how the structures are starting to line up? Okay. Then we move to, and once evil is removed, then our eyes can see God. And if His Word is before us, then what happens to evil? Evil's gone. So, the promise of peace through the removal of evil will result in us seeing God. Seeing God results in the removal of evil, which results in peace. Is this making sense? You see how it goes click, 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 click? And then, if we see God, we will be priests. Priests see God. When we see God, we remove evil. When evil is gone, we have peace. So, I'll just call them again. The promise of peace. The way you get peace is by the removal of evil. When evil is removed, you can see God. When you can see God, you're a priest, because priests see God. Priests see God. When they see God, then, then evil is removed, and when evil is removed is peace. Easy peasy, clear as mud, right?
Oh, yes.
You're with it, Doug?
Oh, got it.
Doot, 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 comes doot, 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 doot. And the whole thing occurs how?
Circle?
No, what's in the middle?
Fire.
Jesus, yeah, fire. The whole thing occurs. So, where there's the promise of peace, evil is removed, we see God, we will be priests. Priests of who?
God.
Jesus, God. Good, I'll think of that. I'll take a theological dance. All right, when Jesus is on the throne, we get to be priests. Do you see? Okay, is this helping?
Can you repeat the question?
Ethan, is this working? You see how the structures, and why it's poetic? Because A equals B equals C equals D, D equals C equals B equals A.
I didn't like poetry before this.
Joni, is this making sense?
I can see the structure and you can explain it like that, but now I'm wondering if I can actually see it myself in the scripture.
Right, and that's why we have to study it. That's why we have to get out the pencil and paper and start making lines. And go, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. So also we hear the word of, okay, we look back and we say, okay, evil is removed. This is the vision of evil being removed. So what you do is you need to step back from the details to the core of the idea. So if we're seeing...
It's such a different way of reading something.
It is. We're used to literal readings,
Yes.
right? We love two things. We love instructions and stories. Jesus got on a donkey, drove into Jerusalem, and they said, Hosanna, behold the King of the Jews. That's a story, right? We love narrative flow. Jews don't think that way. They think poetically and structurally. And we just have to dig, and then we start to see the truth. We start to see the beauty.
They're
But,
actually far more intelligent than we are in some ways.
oh, yeah, their writing is far more involved. Our way of writing is so simplistic.
Yeah.
Now this thing does it all. Back when they had to do it on their own.
That's right.
Yeah.
And even the key is, when you look at a vision or a prophecy, what you're looking for is the big picture. Right? And once you put big labels or big handles on it, then you can start seeing the parallels. But if you get lost in the details, you won't see the
So
parallels.
you're saying I shouldn't open a piece of scripture and try and figure out the chiastic structure right away. I should
Just
work
read it.
on understanding the topic and then piece it together.
Then you'll see it. Exactly. Yeah, if you go looking for the chiasm, you probably won't find it. But if you start looking for the big images, the word of the Lord, the breath of his mouth. And those two, they sound very familiar.
So it's like the type of thing you'd have to read it almost 10 times to get it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And that's why we meditate on his word. That's why we go, okay, we'll visit this over. Okay, no, and slowly but surely the pieces, the big images start to rise above, right? And we see that, okay, this image of Jesus riding into Jerusalem is really about him being king. It's not about what color was the blanket on the ground or how many times they shouted Hosanna. Don't get lost in the details. Okay, what's the image here? The image is of his kingship and their expectation. Usually you can only put like 1 or 2 words on it. And if you get the big words, you'll get the big ideas. So, evil removed, that's a big word. A woman who had put in a basket, carried away by 2 ladies with wings of storks, and they built a temple. That sounds too, it's like, oh, what were the wings representing? And this is what Joshua, like Zechariah goes, what does this mean? And he says, it means that evil's removed. So the goal of it is to take a step back and see the big picture.
Why not just say that?
You get rid of the basket case. That one's a real trouble
See,
passage. I don't know. I can see that one causing problems.
When Jesus taught, what did he teach you? Parables. And what did they not do? They didn't understand the parables. They had to have them explained, right? And why did Jesus teach them parables? So they wouldn't understand. So that only his disciples would understand, right?
Can you imagine if Google Maps, like when you drove, told you like this?
Yeah. Go past.
Go to the myrtle tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Find the 4 horsemen.
That's
Yeah.
right. Go to the resting place of the 4 horsemen and turn 4 stadia and travel to the utter. It sounds like a Tolkien novel.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the mines of Moria.
This is what you're looking for.
Yeah, you'll find it. Okay, so at the center of the gospel, as it's revealed in this chiastic structure we're tracking, is the presence of Jesus in the Spirit. This will lead to Jesus in the Spirit, and Jesus in the Spirit will lead to this. It's all the same. Because at the center of Zechariah is this verse, the gospel. This is the gospel.
Vine and the fig tree.
The vine, we're back to my favorite verse, the vine and the fig tree. Because where the Prince of Peace is, there is.
Peace, prosperity.
Okay, think about the 4 things we just took. I'll go back a slide.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Like to think we just got it.
All right.
I don't think he's very confident.
You'll get this. Imagine sitting under the vine, under your own tree, drinking your vine, drinking your wine, eating your figs. What is present there?
Peace.
Peace. What is absent there?
Evil.
Evil. Good. What is before you?
God.
God, the Word of God, the living image of these images of all these things, right? And what are you doing?
Being peaceful.
And you're not working. You're a priest, right? You're resting in God's presence. You're sitting, right? This is not a laborer. So,
Priests don't work.
yeah, we don't work. Yeah, no, well, we're all priests, so none of us work, I guess, by theory. So, what the image of the vine and the fig is actually this, in a different way of saying it, but it contains these elements. The man who sits under his own vine and his own fig, surrounded is living in peace, without evil. He has God's words before him, the idea of the Torah being meditated on as you eat and drink. I'm kind of inserting that, but the eating of the vine, drinking of the cup and eating of the figs. Aren't you glad that Jesus chose bread instead of figs every communion? Donna, get the figs ready for communion, He holds up a fig and says, this is my body. It would be weird. And that we are the priests sitting in God's presence. All right. At the center of this story is chapter 3, verse 10. This is, again, last week I told you, this is George Washington's. I am once more, he writes about his going back to his farm after his battles. He says, I am once more seated under my own vine and fig tree, and the hope of to spend the remainder of my days in peaceful retirement, making political pursuits yield to the more rational amusement of cultivating the earth. Washington did not want to be a politician. He wanted to be a farmer. The rational amusement of cultivating. Doug, Danny, Harlan, the rational amusement of cultivating the earth. Isn't that a great way to describe farming?
Doug doesn't always look so amused.
What are you doing today? I'm pursuing the rational amusement of cultivating the earth. Said no farmer ever.
That should be written up.
But George Washington did. All right. Everyone will sit under his own vine. I want to wrap this up with a practical application. Every one of you will do what? Invite his neighbor to sit under his vine and under his fig tree. What's at the heart of the gospel? What practice is at the heart of the gospel?
Like
Hospitality. Sorry, Bonnie?
Hospitality.
Hospitality. At the heart of the gospel is Christ invites us to come sit with him at the dining room table. Come into the ways, the byways and the highways, bring them to me, right? The marriage supper of the Lamb. Come and eat and dine. Every time we do communion, it's an invitation to hospitality. That we in turn then exercise hospitality. The gospel is hospitality, practiced and experienced. So we experience hospitality when we sit with Christ at his table, and then we in turn extend the same thing. We invite people to come sit at. So as a church, all we're doing really is inviting people to come sit at our table. Come dine here. The music's great, the food is good, come dine. We have comfortable chairs, right? That's hospitality. The heart of the gospel is rooted in hospitality. Let your love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Never flag in zeal. Be aglow with the Spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Practice hospitality. It is one of the practices of the gospel. Who are we up to for reading? Bonnie, you want to read 1 Timothy 3:2?
An overseer then must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, able to teach.
Why are elders required to be hospitable?
Kind of central to the gospel.
It's right. If we are to model the gospel, we must practice hospitality. Harlan.
Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaint.
Good. Don't complain. Just be hospitable. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. Love covers a multitude of sins. So this is a castic verse, right? Love covers sins. Hospitality, don't complain. There's a parallel structure here. I love that. Be hospitable without complaint. It's like, they're coming over again. I got it back in the house. No, just don't. Just be hospitable. Shelley.
Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you.
Isn't that compassion? That's hospitality. The welcoming heart that is as kind as we have experienced kindness.
Another chiastic.
Yep. Donna, you want to read?
When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
Why should we be hospitable?
Because we were shown hospitality.
Because we were shown hospitality. Why should we forgive?
Because we were
We've been shown forgiven. As God has been we were once aliens and strangers to God, right? Outside the city, unwelcome in his household. And he showed us hospitality. He said, come on in. Welcome to my house. Dine at my table. Know my blessings. So we are hospitable because we have been treated with hospitality.
Now all I see is chiastics everywhere, Dan.
Good. So this is hospitality. That's what I did with a couple of pictures. Hospitality is dining with strangers and people maybe you don't get along with.
That is tricky, isn't it?
It's watching out and looking after and looking over those who maybe you don't see eye to eye with. And sometimes it means being a source of comfort. I got one last one that I have a phrase for. And sometimes hospitality hurts. So who is being hospitable here? I said, don't sit on me. All right. Matthew 25, we'll wrap up this. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. These are Christ's commands to hospitality. All right.
The gospel is just that.
Yes. Yes.
That whole verse.
That's right. That's the gospel. The gospel is hospitality. And hospitality demonstrates the gospel. Back and forth. All right. Any thoughts? Outside of the mud of confusion. And I agree. Why can't it be simpler? Because at times it is. Herein is the greatest commandment. The great commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Right? The Great Commission, go and tell. Yeah, exactly. And the great call, go be hospitable. All right. that's everybody for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I hope that was clear and you're able to track with us. And thank you all. I know it's warm and it's late and all of us are sick and tired and sick, but hopefully we all track together.